of sports degrees in the UK, with campuses at Wembley and Etihad Stadium. Learn online with unique access to the iconic MCG and a big-hitting Australian industry network. Be one of the first Australians to get a football master's degree and join GIS's global network of football leaders. Apply now to start in February 2023. Learn more at gis.sport/FNR. That's gis.sport/FNR.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR. George Danikian, along with Lachie Flanagan. It's State of Our Football Nation for yet another week. And importantly, it's been a huge week in football. Indeed. So many things to address, so many things to attend to. There's a lot more football still to be played. It's a case of where do we look, what do we think about, and what's next? And what's next, of course, is the start of a brand new A-League men's season. And there are an array of games that already have piqued my my interest. Everyone wants to tell me about the rematch, the grand final rematch, and I keep reminding them, unless it's played in a grand final, it's not a grand final rematch. It's just the fact that we're playing Western United at Amy, and it's not a grand final replay.
I would be a lot more charitable than that to people who pronounce it as
what would you say?
You know what I do, George, is I play quite a straight bat to that sort of suggestion.
I do too. I was an opening batsman.
It's premiers versus champions.
It's very good. Very good. See, that's not lazy. Lazy is, it's a grand final replay.
You just
please get over it.
Alienated half of our listener base, George.
Well, there you go. It's not unusual. Sometimes in life, it's a bit like, what's that station in Britain? Talk Sport.
Yes.
You alienate everybody at the same time. You
can't. I guess that's how you really mean. Any attention is good attention.
We've got a couple of things to address early on. Got a couple of guests coming on from Channel 10 and Paramount Plus. We have Daniel Mcbreen, and hopefully a little bit later on we'll catch up with the managing director of the biggest team or the biggest club in the country, Melbourne Victory. The one and only Caroline Carnegie. So looking forward to hearing about their new sponsorship deal, which is a brand new company, brand new name. So the front of the shirt will look very interesting. 777.
Yeah. Well, it's the actual front of the shirt sponsor is going to be a company of the 777 partners, which is Bonza.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll get that explained to us. So
Shazza and Bazza, the two planes in the, what do you call a fleet of planes? It's not an armada, that's ships. That's probably an after the show
It's a squadron,
question.
isn't it?
A squadron, yeah.
Thank you.
Fleet.
First off, though, we need to touch on something that occurred last week. Football Australia has concluded the investigation into the conduct of that identified spectator who was there at the Australia Cup final, the game at Combank Stadium between, of course, Sydney United, or Sydney 58, taking on Macarthur. The Spectator in question has been issued now, we're hearing, with a lifetime ban from attending Football Australia sanctioned matches, which means all NPL games, the A-League games, Australia Cup games, and any national team matches that are scheduled. So that's not the sort of thing any fan would hope to have. And it's great to see that the ban is effective immediately. And the conduct in question, of course, relates to some actions that were displayed quite clearly for not only the world to see, but they were captured by the host broadcaster's cameras, so very hard to deny it. The conduct, a breach of the Australia Cup terms of admission, and also the Football Australia's Spectator Code of Behaviour. I'm hoping now that we're going to see some others identified and they come forward. And we're hearing that Football Australia has decided to make it very, very clear they're going to adopt a zero tolerance policy to any disrespect or anything that's offensive at sanctioned events, and they're not going to tolerate anybody stepping out of line, which is fair and reasonable. And they needed to act. They've acted. Let's see what happens now with a follow-up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a guest about to join us. Is that the one that was promised?
Indeed we do. The very same.
The very same. Okay. Daniel Mcbreen is someone who we've been hearing on television commentary for quite some time. The thing that I didn't realise until recently is that he's not an Australian, he's a POM. Born in Burnley, no less. Daniel Mcbreen, welcome to State of Our Football Nation.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope you can embrace the fact that I've been here for about 45 years and 6 months of my 45 years and 7 months life. So I'd like to say I'm an Australian Nova Cashman.
Mate, we understand. We needed to be as controversial as possible early on.
Daniel, as someone with Scottish heritage, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I can look past that. I'm gonna have to keep it in mind until my dying day.
Hey, Daniel, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me.
It's a delight for us because it's an opportunity to get behind the scenes, to find out just how life has changed for you from your playing days, of course, then, of course, from some of the coaching that you've done over the years. Is this a completely new role? Was this something that you were aiming to sort of put on the CV early on, or is it something that came late to you and you went, you know what, it's there, let's see what I can do with it?
To be honest, probably the latter. I never really thought that I'd be involved in television, and to be honest, near the end of my career, I wasn't really that focused on coaching either, and it wasn't until a couple of chats with coaches at the time and went down that path and just got a call out of the blue at the time from Fox Sports. I'd done a little bit of radio and they said, do you want to come on? And I had no idea what I was doing. And some still don't know what I'm doing 7 years later. But it just sort of grew and has gone along, and I've got more into it and really enjoyed it. And this last 6 months or 12 months really, and then coming on full time now, it's I can't say that I couldn't really be enjoying it anymore. Look,
for Channel 10, for Paramount Plus, it's also a new caper, and they're getting better at what they do. And I've noticed that this year they've put up a very clear sign that there'll be no ads during the game, which was something that annoyed the hell out of some football fans last year, and it's in what was 10 and Paramount Plus's first opportunity to showcase the game as the host broadcasters. So that's exciting. So we're now going to have no ads wall to wall. It'll happen only during the preferred breaks, which is halftime, of course, and before the game and after the game. You should be excited about that. You'll be on call for the entire 90-plus minutes.
Well, that's it. No respite for us.
No respite.
The whole game, yeah. But, look, I think that's something that everyone sat down and decided it wasn't probably conducive to football.
Yeah.
And I think they made the right decisions on there. And, look, I think this year it's going to be a little bit easier in respect to last year we thought we got past that COVID, and then it came and reared its ugly head again, and all of a sudden games left, right and centre, and we've had 24 to 48 hours notice, and no one really knew when games were coming on. But at least we know we're structured. The season's been planned out, and I think it's going to be a great season. There's been some really good signings, and I think there's a lot to look forward to this year.
There's some exciting names, and one of them has captured our imagination, and he plays for the Central Coast Mariners, or he will for a few more
for the time being. While
matches.
We enjoy the farewell tour.
I was going to say, how excited are you to see someone so young be able to basically, with almost the minimum of fuss, cut a swathe through our football excitement? He's just lit a fuse, hasn't he? Young Garang Kuol.
Yep, he has. His brother went before him through the Mariners and then off to Germany, but if we thought there was someone who might come through with a little bit more swagger and arrogance and a little bit more cockiness in him, well, we found him in Garang, because he's just set the game on fire towards the end of last season and really topped it off at the end of last year when he played against Barcelona for the All-Stars and tore them apart and nearly scored a couple of goals in another cameo. But the guy hasn't started a game of football yet in professional football. I think he's played 200 minutes all up. I think he had 5 games off the bench, scored 4 goals. Yep. Now he's marked with a Socceroos appearance as well, where he showed us his electricity in that as well. But it's been a meteoric rise for him. He's got a lot to learn, and we saw Graham Arnold talking about him, saying he's raw, he's got talent, but he needs a lot of work, which is to be expected. He's 18 and he's hardly played a lot of minutes in football. So I think he's probably in the best spot there to be with Nick Montgomery, who's dealt with a lot of young guys coming through, has played at the top level in the UK, so understands what it means to get there and what you need to do to stay there as well. So I'm pretty sure he'll be on the phone to Newcastle United in the Premier League saying, right, how do we manage this over the next 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it is, and also through the World Cup. And so he can be at his best physical space when he gets over there. I'm sure he'll be lent out to another country, particularly maybe Portugal or something like that. But it'll be an interesting to watch. I think he could be a real excitement machine for not only for us to watch through his club career, but for the Socceroos going forward.
Daniel Mcbreen is our guest on State of Our Football Nation on FNR, George Stanikian along with Lachie Flanagan. And Daniel, can you give me, and especially for those who haven't seen too much of Garang Kuol, which is probably the entire football community, what are the electric gifts that make him so special? Because for me, the thing that I couldn't believe, especially when he was introduced for the second game against New Zealand, every time the ball went anywhere near him, there was no fuss, there was no, outlandish movement. He just breezed from one end of the field to the other. Minimum of fuss, laid on a pass, created a goal, and he was prepared to do it every time he got the ball. What is it? What are the special gifts that make him so dangerous and so exciting?
Well, obviously he's got talent, technical ability, the ability to run with the ball. He can finish, as we saw at the end of last season. Yep. Some of the finishing he had, it was just snap finishing, quick decisions. He's got that ability, but he's extremely fast. But I think the thing that's put him in good stead, he's got this arrogance where it doesn't matter. To him, he said it when he played against Barcelona. He said, one day I know I'm going to play at that level or around those players. And I think it's just the belief in himself and the directness that I don't care who I'm playing against. I don't know. You don't worry about telling me who they are. I'm just going to go out and play, because he has that unbridled passion that I'm good enough to whoever you put me against. And he's direct and he believes in himself. And with that technical ability as well, it's a joy to watch.
It is a joy to watch. I've been watching an awful lot of football over the course of my life, and I got very excited when I saw the arrival of young Daniel Azzani. Then I saw young Marco Tilio, and I thought they were two outstanding young men who had promising careers ahead. Of course, we realised Daniel got injured, and that injuries are always the greatest challenge to each and every player, because they behave differently, and some injuries, you can get over them pretty quickly. Some linger for quite some time. But this young man is quite something else again, and I think that it's that calmness that makes him even more dangerous. You know, on television and the big screen, they say stillness is a gift. Well, he's got it on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that comes with his belief. He just believes in himself so much. There's no, I'm sure that he does feel nerves when he goes out into games, but you would never believe it by looking at him, because he just has that unwavering belief that he will do it. And every time he's stepped onto the park so far, he has electrified it. He has sparked the interest of the crowd, and he's dazzled defenders who haven't been able to cope with him. And when you think he's 18 and played 230 minutes, let's see him in a couple of years when he's got a little bit more minutes under his belt and a little bit more experience. Well, the sky's the limit. You know,
just as you created that thought for me, I was reminded of my early days playing golf. And I can remember playing against some really young golfers who were seriously talented. And on the putting greens, they were absolutely fearless. And I remember going back and playing some golf with these guys 10 years later, and their putting had not matured. It had actually deteriorated because they started overthinking. Is that something that we always fear with players as they come into the game, that they are given so many things to think about that they lose their way?
I think so. I think, each player is different, and coaches need to manage that. And, there's some players who want to know every detail of how we want to play the game and where do I be when this is happening. Other players, you need to just say, just go and do what you do. Don't overcomplicate it. This is the team structure, but within that, you go and excite and do what you want to do. And Garang is one of those guys. I think Monty would probably say, go out there and score me a goal. As simple as that, and that's the task of the manager. And I think Monty's done a really good job in that. He's got a lot of young players and a lot of senior players mixed in together, and he needs to manage which ones to say, you've got this, and this to do, and which one to say, go and play.
Well, Monty, along with the rest of us, are going to get to enjoy Garang for a final few weeks on the Garangski farewell tour. That's what I'm calling it. It
starts on the F. What is it? The F3.
The F3 Derby. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
But I'm curious to get your take, Daniel, on the Mariners more broadly going into the start of this season, because we know that he's going to be on the way out. They've still got Jason Cummings, but they have lost his sort of partner in crime in Marco Arena. What do you make of them going into the new campaign?
Look, Marco Arena for me is a big loss. He did an amount of work for them last season, so I think losing him is going to be a big loss for them. But they've gone out and they've signed a couple of players. They've brought Danny Vukovic has come back in goals.
He's class. Class.
Yeah, I think that's a massive signing with the experience he will have into the change room. The new captain of the club with Matty Simon retiring, so there's another loss.
Wow.
He'll still be involved in the backroom staff, so they'll have him around because he's such a good club person. But look, Monty's he's had one season, and so far from his signings that he's made and this pre-season results, and I speak to Monty on a regular basis, obviously ex-teammate of mine, and every time I speak to him after a pre-season game, I say, mate, that's another good result. You've done well there. And he keeps saying, Marco, will you shut up? Pre-season results, you don't get points. It's just another game. And I keep saying, yeah, but it builds confidence. And he keeps trying to talk it down. But I can't keep talking him up enough. I think he's done a great job last year. We'll have to wait and see how the signings come in. Marco Tullio and Paulo Yongo, the strikers who was brought in, how they settle and how they fit in. But look, in pre-season, like I said, they've been getting good results. It's pre-season. They took Sydney FC to penalties with 10 men for 60 minutes in the Australia Cup. And I actually think, people might say I'm biased because it's my old club, but I think they'll be a dark horse trying to push for top three.
I mean, they have proven so many doubters wrong season on season now. It is hard to.
They had a pretty good season last year, except for the end.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We had the chance, George, last week on this program to speak to Monty.
He was great.
An hour. He's someone we rate very highly.
He gave us an hour last week, Daniel. That just goes to show you what a professional he is. He didn't blink. He just gave us everything we asked for and then some. He gave us a sense of some of the great characters that are going to make that dressing room so very special. You know how important a dressing room is, yeah?
100%.
And you also know from both a coaching perspective and as a playing perspective. You've got to tell me, your first dressing room in Romania, what in heavens, can you remember that far back?
I can. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I can remember.
What language were you speaking?
I was speaking English and trying to learn Romanian, and there was probably one or two guys in the team that spoke English. It was a lot of hand signals, a lot of gestures, a lot of winks and nods.
Oh, wow.
The first 6 weeks I was in Romania, I learned quickly to say all the things you need to talk on a football field. And then I became fluent probably after 3 months of everything on the field, left, right, mark up, come here. And then we'd go and have a coffee after and I'd sit there in silence because I had no idea.
You didn't know how to order a coffee.
Yeah, exactly. To be saved that I was thrown at the deep end was probably an understatement. But it was a learning experience, a very quick learning experience from a boy who'd been living at home with his mum to move to Romania on his own was quite a step.
That takes an enormous leap of faith. Were you a gambler? Did you believe? What was it that said, I can do Romania, no problem?
Yeah.
I can do Bucharest.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even in Bucharest. I was 3.5 hours south of Bucharest. Look, sometimes I just think you get to a point, and I've had it a few times in my life where you think, here's an opportunity that I might not get, and it could lead to something else. And for me, it did. It led to 8 years playing in Europe. And sometimes I think at the spur of the moment, you just have to go with your gut. And let me say, it wasn't all roses when I was in Romania. It was, I wasn't getting paid at times, and it was very hard with the language and etc. But for me, I think it made me grow as a human being and as a person. Got to see a very different culture and the differences of, a society where it was the mega rich, the mega poor, and not many in between. So I think I grew up really, and that put me in good stead going forward.
Were you there when they built that magnificent palace?
I'm not that old. Come on.
I'm sorry.
That was already there.
They called it his folly. And when you go and see it, like it has about 1,000 rooms. It's extraordinary. I don't know. It just fascinates me that you had the courage. Talk about cutting the umbilical cord. Just fantastic. Well done to you. From there, was it Scotland and then the English league with Scunthorpe?
Yeah. Went over to Scotland for a couple of years. Ended up in England down at Scunthorpe, and then injuries.
What was Scotland like for a good Aussie boy?
Do you know what? I loved it. Got there, the people were beautiful, always accommodating. On the days off, I'd just go off and drive in the countryside. It was a beautiful place, and we played some good football. Russell Latapi, who's now the assistant at Macarthur, he was a teammate of mine at Falkirk for a couple of years. And every training session, he'd say, "Come on, Danny boy, let's go, a couple of beers." And I'm like, "Russell, you've got the runs on the board, mate. I can't have a beer every day like you." But it was a beautiful place, mate. I really enjoyed my time there.
I hope you haven't just said that because I pinned my Scotland colours to the mast ferry.
No, he believes it. He believes it.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Hey, Daniel, could I ask quickly about the Falkirk Stadium, because I've been to that ground before to watch a Hearts game actually away, and I was quite taken with that sort of design. It's one of those stadiums that hasn't got like the full enclosed space. It's sort of 50-50. Is that the kind of ground that maybe
we could do more?
Yeah, as A-League teams potentially make a play for their own infrastructure that we could experiment with?
Look, I'm a massive fan of having stadiums for the size of the venue, for the crowd that you're going to have. If you have a smaller stadium for a smaller crowd, you'll have a greater atmosphere. You'll create a want to come back, a more demand to get to the stadiums, and then from there you can expand on your stadiums. Now, funny story is with the Falkirk one is apparently they put they got the grant to fill the stadium all around, and then they realised that there was some kind of manufacturing plant or a chemical plant not far from it that actually that side of the stadium that doesn't have a stand actually just crossed the line where you weren't allowed to build in.
I hate when that happens.
That's why they didn't have the stand on the other side, not because of that's all they were going for, but then they realised we're not allowed to build that there. So it was a sort of a weird one.
So a covenant on that ground created the mystical and wonderful result that Lachie's so excited about.
Well, it's just funny because I remember the discussions in the off-season about, potential training bases and stadium builds for Western United, maybe only having 3 grandstands instead of 4 and being fully enclosed. And my immediate thought was like, hey, that's Falkirk. That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
There you go.
It's Mariners Stadium, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest, one of the best stadiums in Australia, in my opinion.
Yeah, bang on.
Speaking of opinions, you played in Hong Kong, you played in China. Take us on a bit of a journey. What did you learn from those different communities, and is the actual football very different in each country?
Yeah, it is, definitely.
So the playing is very different in each and every country, huh?
It is, and a lot of that can be resources, it can be culture, but it also can just come down to being weather. So when I was playing in Shanghai, we used to play at 9:45 at night because the temperature was 42 degrees in the day, and it would get down to 39 at night. So we'd be playing at 9:45. So obviously straight away you can imagine the game were a very slow, much slower paced game. Similar to when we play through the summer in Australia, you've got to think about the conditions the players are in. Now, if you're going to play through the middle of a European winter, you're going to run all day because you want to run to keep warm, let alone be too hot. So I think there's a lot of factors that make the football different in each country, and culturally, Asian was very technical. They wanted very technical players. I thought they were probably a little less enamoured with the tactical side of things, where in Australia I think we're very tactically aware, tactically astute, and there's a lot of real students of the game tactically. So there's these little different nuances when you go to different countries, and it gives a completely different product.
Well, we've got a very new product coming up. It's season 22-23 of the A-League, and the sponsors have come on board. Some new sponsors have come on to showcase their wares. And I can remember that last year we were talking about a new car company called Cupra. And now it's being adopted by about 4 or 5 other agencies. So the brands are building, and we're going to catch up with the MD of Melbourne Victory shortly, Caroline Carnegie, and she's going to talk to us about the power of their new sponsorship deal, and that's a brand new name to Australia and to the league, which is exciting. What are the games that have actually taken your fancy even before we start, Daniel?
Well, you look first round, and I think we started off with a bang on Friday night, tomorrow night.
True.
The grand final replay.
Don't say grand final replay.
Why not?
It's not. No. Unless we're in a grand final, it can't be a grand final replay.
I've tried to talk George down to premiers versus champions, just to put him at ease. Let's do
it. Champions versus premiers.
There you go. Beauty. On ya.
Much better.
Yeah, it should be a great game.
It should be. And look, for all the clubs, the first game, they want to put out a marquee. Pre-season over in Australia, it's very long, and we're spread out. So sometimes you don't really know too much about some teams because they haven't played too many games. But we're starting with a Big Blue. We're starting with an F3 derby. And what you can't ask for more than that. Let's get the big games. Let's get the crowds back in the stadiums. Sydney's back at Allianz. Western Sydney are in their Combank Stadium, which is fantastic. And I think Knicks are back at home in their country, which they haven't pretty much done for 2 years.
What amazing.
So I think we see some big crowds over there, and they're obviously historically a tough team to beat over there. So there's plenty of positives for this season. And I think getting back to normality and structure and everyone knowing when the games are on and when they can turn up and turning up in their droves to support the football. And there's been some really good signings as well. So I can't wait, to be honest. I'm excited.
There's also been an exodus from the east to the west. A crop of young footballers have decided to pin their reputations to the Perth Glory mast. That's going to sound like a very different journey, and could be a very exciting one.
Yeah, look, Ruben Zakovic is having his first full year in charge, a young coach. Came in last year, and when he came in, basically just played the youth and said, show me what you got, guys. We want to play young Perth players. He's kept a few have left. The few have been picked up by other clubs, but he's done really good recruitment in my eyes. He's got a good mixture of youth and some experience. He's got a couple of players from overseas, Ryan Williams back from overseas as well. So I think he'll be looking to make a statement this year after finishing on the bottom of the table. And they're playing the first 6 games away from home. That's the downside. But then they go back and they're playing out of Macedonia Stadium in Perth as their stadium's being upgraded for the Women's World Cup. And I think that could have a galvanising effect for the Glory. You know, a smaller stadium, crowds, as we just said, packing in, getting on top of the players, and opposition teams might not like going there.
Yes, the bull ring, eh? You actually feel the pressure. You can feel the 12th. What is it? The 12th player?
The 12th man. Yeah.
The 12th man. Yes.
I'd be reticent to call it the bull ring. There, you might be stealing some MacArthur IP there. They might have that.
Hey, man, I was just going back to a place in South Africa, and thinking, you know, cricketing greats have played the bull ring. No one place, no one group can claim that much IP. Eh? Just think about that. But Daniel, we're super excited the fact that the season is upon us, as you touched on earlier. It's a humongously long pre-season, but in some respects it had to be this way in order to set us up for what promises to be a truly exciting one. And we wish you every success for the brand new season. I hope we can get back to you throughout the season and talk to you about how you see the competition going on and which teams are making the biggest impact. Which game are you calling, or are you moving around and doing as many as you can?
Well, I'll be on Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week.
What are they saying?
I love that. It's professionalism.
Yeah, something, no rest wicked.
No
like
rest
that.
for the wicked is right. Daniel Mcbreen, it's been a delight having you on. And once again, great to know that there's a little Burnley in that boy. But deep down, he spent a lifetime in this country showcasing his talents to the world. Daniel Mcbreen, thank you for joining us on FNR.
Thanks for having me, guys, and I'll see you through the season.
You got it. All about it. Good luck. That's fantastic. Daniel Mcbreen.
Brilliant. He's
played everywhere. We're going to take a break.
Yes.
And we've got a special guest at the other end. We've got the new MD at Melbourne Victory, Caroline Carnegie, to join us when we get back.
Ever wanted a career in football? At the Global Institute of Sport, you can now study a master's degree in football business or football coaching and analysis right here in Australia. GIS is the largest provider of sports degrees in the UK, with campuses at Wembley and Etihad Stadium. Learn online with unique access to the iconic MCG and a big-hitting Australian industry network. Be one of the first Australians to get a football master's degree and join GIS's global network of football leaders. Apply now to start in February 2023. Learn more at gis.sport/FNR. That's gis.sport/FNR. Ever wanted a career in football? At the Global Institute of Sport, you can now study a master's degree in football business or football coaching and analysis right here in Australia. GIS is the largest provider of sports degrees in the UK, with campuses at Wembley and Etihad Stadium. Learn online with unique access to the iconic MCG and a big-hitting Australian industry network. Be one of the first Australians to get a football master's degree and join GIS's global network of football leaders. Apply now to start in February 2023. Learn more at gis.sport/FNR. That's gis.sport/FNR.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR. It's George and Lachie in the studio, and joining us by phone, because she's been busy all day, is the MD of Melbourne Victory, Caroline Carnegie. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
What a tremendous last few days. Some great news has come out of the club. Would you like to fill all those people who weren't at the season launch and didn't get a chance to hear the good news that there's a big brand, a big company, I think Miami-based, are they not, who've come to the party and they're offering something very special, a brand new front of shirt offering for the Melbourne Victory.
Yeah, that's right. We've had an amazing week, and we've had a couple of different pieces of good news. We've obviously announced our new front of shirt partner in Bonza Airlines. They are part of the 777 portfolio, but it is part of a separate deal to the strategic investment we also announced yesterday. But it's a 4-year principal partnership with our men's team, the biggest one that the club has done, and we are incredibly excited about everything that Bonza has to offer for our members and fans as well.
It's a sensationally Australian branding. Bonza, you beaut.
And the planes, are they Shazza and Bazza as well?
I think it sits very nicely next to our women's front of shirt partner in Mate. Could you get anything better than Bonza and Mate?
Oh, fantastic. Well done. That is a good strategic call, and
brand synergy,
brand awareness. It's called brand awareness. Caroline,
that's right.
A lawyer in your initial life and world, but you've now been given a tremendous role, a transformative role at the biggest football club in Australia. I'm talking about the Round Ball Code. That's Melbourne Victory. You're the MD. It wasn't all roses when you came on board. You had a lot of work to do. You made a fantastic appointment. John Didolitza came on board, and then you started taking a look at the administration and creating a whole new pathway. How's the journey been? You didn't quite get the chocolates last year, but you certainly excited some very, very tough to please fans.
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, when I started, if we'd all come together as a Melbourne Victory family and said where we ended up, 1 point off Premier's plate and a game off the grand final, I think everybody would have jumped at it. We were disappointed at the end. As you get better, you want more. And Our campaign this year is about the club wanting more. But everybody at the club has put in such an enormous amount of work to try to get Melbourne Victory back to where it should be. We're very proud of the people, the culture we've got, the football department, men and women. And as you rightfully said, JD has played an enormous part in that. And then culminating this week, heading into this season with, our new front of shirt partner and our new investment partner, I think, we're on the right track. There's always going to be more to do, but we want to be innovative and bold and make change, and we're aligning ourselves with the right partners to enable us to do that. And that's just going to result in benefits for our members and fans. I
mean, it's easy to forget just how bleak things seemed, both internally and externally, for Melbourne Victory before last season, before you came in. What do you think has been the key? Obviously, there are so many elements that go into running a football club. What do you think has been the sort of biggest factor behind the market improvement we've seen from Victory on and off the field, on and off the field though, George, in such a short space of time?
Yeah, look, I think on the field, you've nailed both of them. Having Tony join has been amazing for us. Having JD, who's really got a focus across all our football programs, has been fantastic. That's really helped us get things together. And I say that on the men's side because obviously Jeff hasn't needed a lot of help with being back-to-back champions, but, we've provided the support that we can to get the women the same as the men as well. I think off the pitch, it's just been a case of trying to listen to, all of our stakeholders. We won't always get things right. But we're trying very hard to make sure that we do, and to the extent to which we might have to do things different to what they want to see or hear, that we communicate openly about why that might be, that the club has to go down a certain path. And I think if you're genuine with people and open with them, they understand. They might not like the decisions all the time, but the fact that they know that you've thought about the club, you've thought about them, and you've tried to align those two things together makes a big difference to how they support you and perceive you and how well the club goes off the pitch.
Caroline Carnegie is our special guest on FNR State of Our Football Nation. She's the MD, the Managing Director of Melbourne Victory. And we touched on and started the conversation by saying how exciting it must be to be working for the biggest football club in the country. You're also working in the most competitive city in Australia in terms of sport. Melbourne is notorious. It's tough. There are so many competing interests. I'm sure that you have other interests as well. And I would suggest too, and I'm going to ask you now, do you spread your allegiances to other codes, or are you one-eyed and glued only to Melbourne Victory?
I am currently one-eyed and glued only to Melbourne Victory because there's so many things that we can be doing, and I'm so passionate about the club. I've got the best job in the world, so there isn't anything else I'd rather be doing or following. I did in a previous life also support an AFL team, and I still would support them, but really it's all about the round ball code for me. You haven't got
time. So what was that AFL side?
I'm a Kangaroos fan.
Is that right? So you must be feeling all the stress and consternation that so many of the others are feeling at the moment with the goings-on that are happening in that part of the football and sporting sphere. But let's get back to Victory. You've got a tremendous role. You're the first woman to take on the challenge at the very top of the tree in an Australian football club. That's a huge responsibility, and I get a feeling, and just listening to you speaking, that you want to make a huge success of it. We saw a number of women over the last half a dozen years stand up and represent big football clubs in other codes, and they did awfully well. Is it time now for Victory to climb the last few inches, the last few feet, to once again ascend the Everest and be the number one football club in the country?
Absolutely it is. I mean, that's what it's all about for us. I mean, we're in the sporting capital of the world. We're part of the biggest sport in the world. We might not be the biggest in Victoria, but, we'll get there. I think we're starting to line things up as a code in football. We've got 2 World Cups within the next, 9 months. Victory is going to be a formidable challenger, and this season and many seasons to come. And I'm going to work very hard. My team's going to work very hard. The boys and girls are going to work very hard to make sure we get to the top. That's for sure, and that's the top of football, but the top of any team sport, really. So the sky's the limit for us.
Now, as a smart businesswoman, I can bet your bottom dollar that there won't be one kit that Victory will be running out this year. How many kits have you lined up to roll out? And how many different colours? Because I'm getting so many people saying to me, where's our famous Melbourne Victory top?
But it's not just kits anymore. There's the exclusive Nani range as well.
Oh, yes, of course.
It's all happening.
But quite seriously, how many kits are we going to see this year?
We'll never keep everyone happy with our kit. Look, the home kit you saw released a couple of days ago. The away kit you'll see after the weekend, but everybody sort of knows what that's going to look like because our fans designed it and voted for it. We're very lucky we've got a partnership with Ultra Football, which does enable us to be a bit more nimble with some bits and pieces around kit and merchandise, and we'll continue to see where we can push boundaries, do things differently. We'll take on board feedback. We'll learn from the things that our members and fans want to see, and we'll push some different things through. That's for sure.
Well,
yeah. Go on.
Speaking of Nani, not only will he be spearheading his own sort of sub merch line within the Melbourne Victory brand.
He's probably following young Timmy Cahill.
Yeah, something
remember
like
Timmy
that.
Started.
I remember Harry Kill had a politics stint as well.
Dear.
I think that ad is still up at the DFO anyway. Obviously, Nani is also going to be spearheading this assault on the A-League men's title for the side. Obviously, a landmark signing, not just for Melbourne Victory, but for the league as a whole. I'm curious to know a little bit more about the process of how that deal came to be, because a lot of the time it's a simple sort of club approaches player and vice versa, but obviously there's been a big push from the APL on clubs to target specific types of talent. So there's been a sort of a three-way relationship here. To take us through the process of how the Portuguese maestro came to sign for Melbourne Victory.
Yeah, no problems. Look, from a footballing perspective, the signing of Nani was no different to other players in that it starts with the football department, the coach, JD, and the rest of the football team looking at the talent that we're looking, or the positions that we're looking to fill, and who we think might fill those. With someone at Nani's stature, we needed some assistance with that, and the league definitely has a focus, and Danny Townsend should be commended for it on making sure that we get the best talent that we can in here to create excitement for the league and to help build. And after those discussions initially started with our football sort of hat first, we approached the league around marquee status and support and what we might be able to do together if we had somebody of his calibre playing for Melbourne Victory, and we landed where we landed, and we couldn't be more excited to see him run out tomorrow night, or Saturday night I should say.
Caroline, one of the things that I've, as a football fan, would love to see, especially we're now inside a year before the Women's World Cup, what are the chances of seeing double headers? I'm not talking about curtain raisers, I'm talking about double headers, Amy Park, men's and women's. Same day.
We're going to have 4 or 5 of them this season. We had all our women's games, home games bar one, I think, that was moved because of COVID as an opener for the men last season at Amy. And we're actually going to have a double header where the men open for the women this season, beauty, in February as well, which I think is a first.
Hang on, let me do that again. Bonza.
Yes, that's right. It's Bonza, mate. So we're really excited about the double headers are great for us. We think it's a fantastic exposure to people that might not necessarily follow the women's game as closely as they do the men's. I know the league has a little bit of a strategy of perhaps trying to play some of the women's games in a more local ground and sort of touring them around to get support, and that works for some teams. For us, we want to see our girls front and centre at Amy Park. Jeff wants to see the girls there. There isn't a better stadium in Melbourne for them to play at, and that's the way we will continue to go.
Well, that's exciting stuff. That really is exciting, and it's the sort of thing that the real football fan has been craving and asking, to see more of. And I've asked the question of other clubs, and we keep hearing things like the people who run the ground don't want to load the pitch up. There are other sports that are being played. Pardon me. And it's always about the stadium holders. And I'd love to see, or I'm loving hearing, that you have some leeway, or you've made and reached out to find more leeway to arrange and have these games actually taking place, because this is how we get the excitement levels, through the roof.
The most important thing for us is, though, we need our fans, we need people who love football to come along and support the girls as well.
Correct.
And then the narrative sort of writes itself. So, we're going to push it. We want our girls to be there. That's the forum we want to see them play in, and that's how we want to build the game. But we need every one of our members and fans to come along and support the girls and support the boys and fill the stadiums for both, so that we can make sure we create the best and most sustainable future and the most successful football outcomes for Melbourne Victory.
Tony Popovich doesn't like missing too many seasons without success. You had a long chat together. You guys are on the same page. You know what you want?
We're all on the same page. Of course we know what we want.
Fantastic.
It's all about the silverware.
Oh, man, that's exciting stuff. And talk to me about the women. Talk to me about the women and the situation there. Have you got... Is the side now intact, complete, or are there still more announcements to be made before the games start?
There'll be a couple more announcements to be made in the lead into the start of the A-League women's season for sure, but we've got good stability in the side from last year. We're fortunate we're getting Kayla Morrison back. I'm not sure whether you recall, but she obviously hurt herself in the first game last season.
Correct, yeah.
Which took her out for the rest of the year. And I've seen Kayla around the office quite a bit this week, and she's very excited about getting back into training and getting back into matches. And I think, Jeff probably doesn't like me saying it, but we're all pretty excited about seeing where we might land with a three-peat. The girls are very motivated to continue their success for sure.
Oh, three-peat. Whenever I hear the word three-peat, I get very nervous.
I think the rest of the rest of the A-League women should probably be the ones who are nervous
correct,
when that sort of talk is flying around.
What makes it even more exciting is that all the women now have an extraordinary opportunity if they want to play international football, if they can play for the Matildas. We've seen a crop of players suddenly go down with injuries. Kaya Simon only the other day did an ACL. That's not what you want to hear with the Women's World Cup less than a year away. It asks an awful lot of players, and I can imagine the stress that goes in there. But the opportunity for those next up, that next generation, you'd be jumping out of your skin, wouldn't you, Caroline?
I think that's right. They are. They're excited about the opportunities. They're excited, to be honest, just about having the World Cup on home soil as well. And, having a successful A-League women's season leading into that will be great for us. It'll be great for football, and it'll be great for the World Cup legacy as well. So we're all looking forward to that for sure. And
are you ready for the first home game of the season? You're playing away, of course, in Sydney, and already we're hearing that there are a great number of Victory fans who have taken the opportunity to go travelling.
Yep, and we couldn't be more excited or proud of that. I think our fans are, when you talk about do we want to be the best A-League club or just generally football club or club in Australia, I think we've got the best supporters, the most passionate supporters of any code and of any club. And having, 1,000 odd that, we've seen the numbers that are heading up to Sydney when, you look at how difficult it is to travel and how expensive it is at the moment. We're so proud that the guys are going to be there and the girls to support our boys. The boys know about it. They're very excited to be playing in front of them, and I'm sure it'll help us on Saturday night.
Will you be part of that touring party, or your job much?
Yes.
Oh, you will be there.
I will be there. I can't miss the first game of the season.
Of course not. Absolutely not.
Yeah, well, the fact that so many have committed to sort of filling that away, babe, not just because of the difficulties of travel, as you've outlined, Caroline, but the difficulties of the actual conditions on the day. It's supposed to be quite rainy, as it has been throughout the country. I mean, that augurs pretty well for what we can expect from, not just the first home game against Western Sydney, but the season to come.
Yeah, I think that's right. And our first three games are all going to be crackers. We've got the Big Blue starting off up in Sydney, but then the Wanderers. So Nani's first game in Melbourne for our fans to really truly come along and all support him, and then a home derby against City the following week. It's going to be a great start to the season for sure.
Absolutely. Caroline, I wanted to ask another quick question about this investment from 777 Partners. One of the things that people were very quick to note about the deal is this sort of other investments that the group have made, particularly into other football clubs. We've seen they're also aligned with the likes of Genoa, Vasco da Gama, Standard Liège, Sevilla as well in Spain. Does that potentially open up any fresh opportunities for a club like Melbourne Victory?
Of course it does. I mean, the
scouting.
sort of mentioned it when we came out with it yesterday, but one of the things that we want to make sure is that we're continually at the front and improving as part of at Melbourne Victory, and we want to be leading the way. And we really need to make sure that we've got a true pathway for our talent, whether that's players or coaches, and even our administration staff, to learn from the way other people around the world do it and do it well. And part of their network is what was so appealing to us, to be able to work with those sorts of clubs, with 777, and to be able to grow the Melbourne Victory brand, opportunity, offering and franchise is just amazing for us.
Caroline, thank you very much for accepting the invitation to join us on FNR. I know it was short notice, but it's really appreciated. Thank you for giving us the time and taking us through this fantastic new involvement that features 777 Partners and, of course, Bonza and what's the other?
Mate.
Mate. Okay, got it. Just sorted there. And good luck. When do you head off for Sydney? When do you head off?
I head off tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, safe travels, and we'll talk to you when we get back.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you, gentlemen. Bye.
Caroline Carnegie from Melbourne Victory. And she sounds all business, and she also sounds very confident that what they're putting in place is going to work.
Well,
and that fills me with great dread, because that means that Victory are going to be there or thereabouts again.
And most importantly for me at least, she sounds like, and indeed over the course of her first season in charge, is someone who understands the role that the fans play in facilitating what the Victory as a football club are, and listening to them and being upfront, being direct, communicating openly with them. We did see, particularly towards the dark times for Victory, a lot of transgressions, a lot of maybe poorly thought out things, and that seems like that sort of those lines of dialogue between fan and management have certainly improved in the past year, and the fact that the football's definitely had an uptick can't hurt either.
Oh, absolutely. When fans are happier, you're always going to get more exciting results. But the challenge here is fans are voracious and they're insatiable. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They'll want more and more and more and more. Speaking of more and more and more, yesterday was match day 1 of the Under-17 Asian Cup qualifiers. This is the competition being played currently at Shepparton on the most fabulous pitch. Garen Quoll says the best pitch in Australia by the length of Flemington Strait.
Oh, I have never been there, but I have seen, as an NPL2 aficionado, I have seen plenty of streams from there, and it's a great pitch. I mean, it held up well during the game last night between Australia and the Northern Mariana Islands.
What was the score there again?
The Subway Joeys.
What was the Subway Joeys? They ate them up. They ate up their opponents.
It was my favourite number, 23.
23-0.
Yeah.
Adelaide's Irankunda, is it Nestri?
Nestri, Irankunda, yeah.
He didn't do too bad. He didn't score a hat-trick. He scored 4.
Yeah, and he had 3 of those inside the opening 20 minutes, if memory serves me correctly.
70 seconds. First 70 seconds. He got that opening goal. And
then there was a hat-trick.
Yeah, and then very quickly they said to him, player of the match, you can have it.
Yeah.
But what's also exciting is that we had a number of other young stars. Mitchell Glasson, who's the boy from Sydney FC. He scored 4, just quietly. Thank you very much. I noticed that the Western Sydney Wanderers target man, Max Haitley, got a hat-trick. And even that right wing back from Melbourne City, Peter Antoniu, did a pretty good job.
I was
got a brace,
quite
scored a bundle of goals
with his performance. Actually,
I know it's early days. The opposition not quite what we would love to see. You want closer competition, but again, under-17s playing away from home, huge challenge for the opposition. Now, what do you make of Australia's next game? Because the early game saw China win to the tune of 9-0. So China looks efficient, very efficient. They could be some serious competition.
Yeah, well, what I would say to the people who were saying, why don't you sort of take the foot off the gas? The goal difference, because there's only one automatic qualification spot.
You can't really back off.
You can't really afford to. Every goal is important, and that's why we saw obviously China secure a blowout win. I think our next game, correct me if I'm wrong, George, is against Cambodia.
Yes.
Now, the Cambodian game is going to be a real test for the Joeys, because I don't know if you know this, but the Joeys actually, the under-16s Australian national team played Cambodia in the previous round of qualifiers, or for the under-16s equivalent of the tournament, I understand, and Cambodia actually won 4-2. Now, I think that the squads, as they've aged up, obviously, there's a large amount of holdovers from the Australian side going into this 17s team, and the Cambodian team, as it's been communicated to me, is almost identical. So it's going to be largely the same player base. So it's not an easy game at all. It's basically what I'm trying to say.
It'll be interesting to see. Well, I think what you're saying is it'll be very interesting to see how we mature.
Yeah, absolutely. But the China game is one we should rightly be conscious of and concerned about. But the Cambodia is not going to be an easy game either. I think it will be, as a result of the previous meeting, I think it'll be a great watch.
Look, State of Our Football Nation is a weekly program on FNR. Lachie Flanagan and I normally host the show. When it's not Lachie, it has been Josh Parrish, but he's now doing some wonderfully exciting things for both 10 and Paramount Plus, and you were doing some of those. Have you got any more coming up?
Well, no, because there's unfortunately no room in the A-League. There's already too many great callers up there. I'll have to, pick the Australia Cup scraps.
Let me just run this line past you. There are never enough good callers, and there's a Women's World Cup, and I reckon we should be pressing. We've got a couple of people at the station who have the wherewithal. I wonder if we can get them off their comfort zone and get them to push the tree.
I should say that because you're asking me about commentary opportunities. I'm not the person you should be talking to. You should be talking to our producer, Pakua Frimpong, who may or may not be doing some commentary at the top level of Australian football this coming season.
I hope she has, every opportunity presented to her, and if she just chills a little and just enjoys the moment and not worries too much, she'll do a fabulous job.
Well, if you don't know the name, write it down and remember it, because you'll be hearing plenty of it this season.
Fantastic.
Smash it.
Does she wear a special number on the back?
Well, hopefully 23, because that's my favourite.
Oh, God. I was thinking you might come back with, no, she wears the number 1. Okay.
Maybe. Oh. I don't know. I've never worn a jersey while commentating.
Well, we always used to wear them, mate. They gave us that license to thrill.
Strictly suit and tie, man.
There you go.
That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke.
Hey, on that note, time for us to go. Next week, we've got some more special guests, but we trust you've enjoyed Daniel Mcbreen, who was our first guest on the program this week, and, of course, the MD from Melbourne Victory, Caroline Carnegie.
And most importantly, next week, George, we'll be back at the same time. We'll have games to talk about.
Absolutely, and a chance to review some of those squads and how well they stood the opening test, the F3 Derby for a start.
I'll be
Darren Quoll, how will he do? Okay, catch you next week. You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.